Today is an exciting day for this Ferrari because we are performing surgery, and I say we because it's no longer going to be me.
That's right, I did originally try and gather quotes from various welders, but I was either told they don't do aluminium or their prices were quite steep, or they weren't available for weeks. That was until I then got a message from one who'd been away on holiday and he was available this week. So we negotiated a price and we booked in the date.
It was strange how it all worked out in terms of timing. I'd even started practicing welding, and these were my very first ones. As you see, I was able to sort of learn to strike an arc fairly quickly, but running the bead was difficult. And this is steel. Now, aluminium is a whole other ball game, and these parts weren't cheap. They were £1,200 plus the crash box, another few hundred, I believe it was, so £1,500. Aluminium welding. When this guy offered to be able to do it today, Wednesday, I had to take him up on it. This is too much of a chance to get wrong, and if I did mess up the parts, I'll be waiting another 5 weeks for new ones. So when he offered to come and do it, we negotiated price, agreed on that, and he's coming later. So he's basically going to have the 3 bits welded together, and then he's going to weld it onto the body here, which should be good. And then as soon as that's done, we can start building back up this end again.
And so with the parts sanded off camera for a final time to remove that oxide layer, the welder got to work.
And this is the result. We now have it back together. The lineup is okay. It's not meant to be flush up here, as you can check on the other side. It sort of brings it a bit down. There we go, but it was flush along here, which it is, and same down there. So I'm pretty happy with how this is looking. It even lined up nicely on the structural part here. This slid in quite nicely. So I've got a feeling we're good with the lineup on this, but worst case scenario, obviously you can heat up aluminium and move at a later date. He reckons the welder will hold anyway. So he was brilliant. He was called Sonny. And yeah, he was absolutely a really nice guy. So yeah, props to him. Thanks for him coming out. Now I'm just going to let the weld sort of cool down a little bit, let the aluminium cool down, and then we're going to get some etch primer on it and spray it white. And then after that, we can start to rebuild it. Of course, once the etch primer is on, I need to let that set ideally overnight. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to get this primered, and then after that, we're going to start tackling the bits up here. Get those sort of clean and fresh again. So here it is now, all prepared. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray from this side first. Once sort of get top corner, top ends, this side, underneath, inside all here as well. Get as much sprayed as I can this on for now. And then what I'm going to do is, once that's sort of started setting, is I'm going to move to this side and then spray down here as well, because I'll need to move the radiator out the way first. And well, there's no time like now, so let's get into it. So there's the first coat down. I was actually able to get some of this side, but I can, once this is all out of the way, I'll be fine, because I'll be spraying away from the other stuff like the radiator, the air lines. I mean, just to be on the safe side, I won't even show me. I have stuffed it with some paper, just to make sure nothing gets in the air hoses. But as you can see, that's going to be all right. And this is obviously just going to stop it corroding down the line. Now, I was thinking about putting weld-through primer on, but I've had some people say I don't need to do that. And also it makes the welding a lot harder. He needs no paint on there. So I haven't done that. I think it should be okay, to be honest. Looking at the old welds, they didn't seem to have any primer on these bits as well. So should be okay. So anyway, just gonna let that dry now and then get straight on to the next coat. But I've sort of on purposely gone in the gaps here, just in case I've over sanded in any parts. I've brought it down to bare metal. I'd rather go a little bit further than I need to and make sure I've got it all. So it should be absolutely fine. I've made sure any sort of clips and other bits I don't want to spray are covered by the tape, but yeah, should be okay. Hopefully I'm doing this right anyway.
With the final bits on the other side now painted, the primer could now be left to dry off, and I can turn my attention to the excess sealant from fitting the screen.
And well, all I'm going to do is basically go around just sort of scrubbing out the worst of it, and then we're going to try and get probably some acetone in there, or I'll keep with a scraper. I'll sort of decide as I go, but as you can see, we've got quite a bit of excess to get rid of. The actual seals on the car look good. They look, well, near enough spot on, to be honest. It's the same gap on the other side, and then on the top, we're sitting pretty nicely too. So this should be absolutely fine. This should be watertight. I mean, it definitely should, because we've done extra sealant. So yeah, gonna give us a little clean up, and then yeah, we'll touch back in a sec. As you can see, it's starting to peel away down here, which is good. There are scrapes all around these pillars, so I'm not too worried about scratching these because we need the bonnet and the bumper to be resprayed. Bumper's up there, bonnet's there. So I'm just going to ask the body shop to also respray these. So I'm not too worried about scratching this. I'm just obviously trying not to tear the actual seal in the windscreen. That's the main thing. So I'm not worried about how this might look after.
A neat trick here to get stains off is to use pure acetone or nail varnish remover on a cloth, and it'll just rub straight off.
And well, that's the first side done. As you can see, that's looking a lot better now. Managed to get most of it out here as well. But the seals are still good for the windscreen, and that's the main thing. There are scratches on here, as you can see. But to be honest, I think I did that when I was actually removing the windscreen. And you know what? At the end of the day, doing the windscreen on my own, if it was anything like the DB11, they quoted me, what, $4,500, I think it was. I've done this for just the price of the windscreen and a bit of sealant, which has cost me, what, 1,200 quid, including the windscreen. I think we've got a little bit in the budget to get these A-pillars redone. So that's what I'm gonna do. And to be honest, it's still a massive, massive saving. This is only my this is only my second windscreen that I've done. So it probably wasn't gonna be smooth. And it's the first time using that electric sealant gun, and it just laid it a bit too thick. So next time I'll know, and we'll sort of gradually refine the process. But for now, I think we're doing okay. I know there's gonna be people watching this thinking, oh my God. But at the end of the day, I'm pretty happy with that, and I know the body shop will just get that a little bit touched up for me for probably no more than 100. They'll already have the paint for the bonnet, etc., and they'll just do that for me, I'm sure.
I repeated the process on the other side, and this is what it looked like before and after. Job done, and it was at this point I discovered something terrible.
Oh, well, I've just had a pretty bad discovery. I figured I might as well use this to try and line it up, and as you can see here, where the holes up here, we're a good inch or so out, something like that. And to be honest, I feel like this is definitely right, because even the bits that weld to the other parts of this sort of chassis bit up here were fine. So I've come around here, and sure enough, we've got the weld broken here, which is gut wrenching. The top one's absolutely fine, but this one has pulled away, which I imagine would have obviously been in the crash, and that's just pushing it that much over. Even, you know, a centimetre here is going to be an inch or so over here. So that's pretty devastating, because what it means is I'm going to have to strip all this side out now as well as that side, and then I'm going to have to push this back over this way by heating it up, I imagine, trying to get it to line up, and then getting that welded back up. Ah, no! Ay. Well, bugger. It would have been too easy, wouldn't it, just to start putting the car back together. But yeah, I guess what we're going to have to do is, yeah, just get straight into it, start stripping this end down as well. Oh, that's so gutting. Get this end stripped down, dispose these a bit better, and then see if I can pull it round by heating it up.
Yeah, it's fair to say I was a bit disheartened at this point, but the job wasn't going to fix itself, so I just got straight into it, removed the side of the front end, and exposed that bit of the chassis.
There you go, last bit out.
And so with the last bits out, I hooked up some ratchet straps just so I could check how much this small bit of movement was affecting the gap at the end of the chassis leg.
Well, this is the state of play. We've still got quite a bit of movement here, to be honest. I'm just trying to see if it does get closer, and sure enough it does, but we've still got a long way to go. I mean, really, this piece needs to be coming out. It needs to change a lot, basically, which is possible, but I'm wondering if we might have to move this as well. Heat this up and get this moved a bit as well, but This weld seems absolutely fine. I mean, it lines up beautifully here. I just don't think it's that side. I think it's all to do with this side here. I think I'm just gonna sleep on it and have a think about what to do. I mean, the other sort of thing I'm thinking of is we take the welds out, but I really don't want to do that. There's got to be a way we can line this up better, and that's what I'm going to try and figure out. But yeah, going to sleep on it first and have a proper think. See you in the morning. On the Ferrari, I've been speaking to a sort of body expert or sort of chassis expert that I know called Will, who's a really lovely guy. And to be honest, he used to do contracts like this for police cars all the time of sort of moving, well, basically he was like a jig expert, I suppose. And I showed him the issue here with the line up with the crash bar and sort of it being sort of 1.5 inches, 2 inches out. And he was like, honestly, I've dealt with a lot worse. We'll get that fixed for you. So it's not going to be this episode, but probably between now and the next episode, he's going to be coming in and we're going to be sorting out this chassis issue here down on this side, and we're going to make sure that our crash bar, or the lower crash bar that we have, fits it. And you know what, it's annoying, but perhaps I was just getting ahead of myself. I sort of saw the finishing line and I got my hopes that we were going to get this done in a couple of weeks, but realistically I think we might be sort of 2 or 3 weeks away, at least, depending on the resolution to this. It could be a couple of weeks, who knows. But anyway, want to be productive, so we're going to finish the interior here. We're going to get that all put back together, and we've also got the dongle arrived for doing the airbags, so we'll see if that works as well.
So moving on to the interior, I need to first plug the mirror connection back on and then fix the mirror onto the new windscreen. With that out the way, I can then fit the main trim, which was held on with clips, and it took me a bit of time to figure out how to set this up properly.
Maybe I just don't. What you do when I'm in ruins all alone.
Alright, well, this is where I'm up to. Putting this piece in, obviously trying to keep these wires accessible so I can plug them in, you know, through the gap through here. But I'm just trying to get them on the clips, and I've realized these bits, I think it's probably going to be better, where is it, to actually get them hooked on here first, and then it should hold it on after that. So I've got to take them off here, 1, 2, 3, and I've got one down here as well. Pop them on here, and then hopefully that should then hold on there. Then we get the screw in the side, screws underneath as well. Well, sorry, the airbag one, not the airbag, the sun visor ones. God, heads all over the place. Sun visor ones in there, and then yeah, it'll just be a case of putting this middle piece in, which is here. We have 3 screws, 1, 2, 3, and then that central piece will go in once I've done these connections. All right, well, I've got 4 clips on now, 2, 3, and then in the corner 4. So let's give it a go. Come on, play the game. Yes, yes, yes.
And hooray, with that now clipped on, I can secure it by putting the screw into the A-pillar and then fixing the sun visors back onto the trim.
And there's the second one in, so both in now. Just got to connect these up and then clip that top piece in.
Next up, I had to connect the 2 connections for the overhead console, then line it up to be screwed into position.
Let's go to a restaurant, do a field pick up some strawberries, then maybe let's fall in love, sit and have a cup of.
Well, these bits are in now, and as you can see, they're just held in with 3 Allen keys, and there's 2 connections underneath that I've put together before obviously screwing this on. So now we just got to get this clip and pop it on.
And with that final piece on, I can now move on to the A-pillar trims, and I found the best way to do this was to push it in by the windscreen and lined up the clips on the pillar with the grooves on the trim. 1 down, 1 to go.
Baby, it's like I can't even breathe. You're all that I need, and nothing I do helps me forget about you. You just get my head blue. If you only know that's it.
And there we have it. The whole interior is back in the car. Which means it's now time to see if that scanning device is going to help us with our airbag issues. Let's see.
This proved to be quite frustrating as I was able to communicate with the ECU and read the fault codes, including the stored crash code. But when I tried to clear the fault codes and run the scan again, they just come straight back. Even going through the scanner's fix option, it seemed to fail to get the data.
Well, double setback as well as the structural damage or the issues with the alignment. I can't seem to figure this out. I've just been playing around with it for about half an hour or so.
It's interesting, even if I go service function, I see airbag reset. I think, okay, brilliant. Run through this. Can reset airbag data and clear data. It looks promising. And then, yeah. And then these are the options. And half these brands I've not even heard of. Interesting, there's Aston there, but we don't need that. But weirdly, I can't seem to find Ferrari.
But there's a lot of calibration stuff that I can't seem to access. I saw Scott from Ratarossa was doing, so it might well be that I'm using it wrong and I need to figure out a bit more how to do it. Maybe there's some additional software I need to download on this. I'm not too sure, so it's a bit of a frustrating one. I'm going to see if I can get it figured out, but if I can't, then I have found an airbag ECU for a California T without crash data for £215, so might end up doing that, but guess we'll just see. I want to see if I can figure this out first. One thing after another, but that's fine. It's a bit of a shame. Good that we got, obviously, the windscreens done, cleaned up. We got the interior properly done as well, so now we just got to clear the data, sort out the chassis damage, and move forward. I'm sure this device will give us the results we need. I just need to figure out a little bit more how to do it. I've messaged the seller, see it, and just wait for a response from them. But obviously, that's all we can do in this episode. So thank you so much for watching, as ever. Hopefully, next episode I can show you a repaired chassis, and also we can get this car started because I'll either have sorted out how to get rid of the crash data, or I've got that ECU without the crash data. So next episode, that promises to be a lot more progressive, let's say. Anyway, thank you so much for watching as ever, and see you next week. Cheers now. Bye bye.